Good morning, board, staff, and members of the public. After my statement, the chairman will open the meeting and explain the rules for this electronic meeting. Please keep your microphone on when you're not speaking. The technical support team may proactively mute participants if the microphone is picking up background noise. Board members should check to make sure the microphone is not muted before speaking. You may text or call 703-994-0087 at any time during the meeting if you need technical support, and an IT tech will assist. I now turn the meeting over to Committee Chairman, Mr. Bonfils.
Good. I remembered to take it off of mute this time. So, morning, everyone. I have a brief statement, and then we'll get the meeting underway as it's been called to order. In accordance with the governor's state of emergency declaration and executive orders regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, the Loudoun County Board of Supervisors Continuity Ordinance and General Assembly 2020 Budget Amendments 28 and 137 Loudoun Water will meet today in an electronic meeting in compliance with these special procedures. Only action items necessary to continue the operations of Loudoun Water and discharge and the discharge of its lawful purposes, duties, responsibilities will be discussed during today's meeting. Reports and other meeting information are available on board docs. Public notice of the meeting access information was provided on the Loudoun Water website. The recording of the meeting will be available in board docs at the following link. It's boarddocs.com LWVA/board@FS NSF. Board members wishing to speak are reminded to press unmute and identify themselves by name so that the staff can accurately capture the comments. All items will be recommended to the December 10th, 2020 board meeting. Loudoun Water. The board secretary will now take a roll call attendance of the committee members.
Okay. Mr. Bonfils?
Here.
Mr. Allen?
Here.
Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Sultan?
Here.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's take a quick look at the agenda. Okay, come on up and open the agenda. The agenda is pretty straightforward. We have it's an information item and some recommendations that I believe we need to make. So could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. This is Marty.
Second, Terry.
Okay,
So,
roll call vote.
roll call, please. Yes.
Mr. Bonfils?
Yes.
Mr. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Sultan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so we have no action items in section 3. Let's move to information item number 4, and I'm not sure who is starting off for staff.
I will kick it off, and then I'm going to turn it over to Stefan. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for your time this morning. This is our last meeting of the year. And at this meeting, we're going to discuss some final design elements that are on our critical path so that we can keep everything moving forward. So this will also really check the box for us on those what we were referring to as traditional elements or softening elements that the board directed us to work with Nelson Bergholtz on earlier this year. So we'll be able to complete that effort as well. As Stefan is going through the items, staff's recommendation is really for the more cost-effective options or in any options that don't affect the project or educational elements, things like that. And you'll see what we're talking about when we get into them. But certainly we're here for your feedback and input, and then you can decide what direction you want to go. And so one last thing before I turn it over to Stefan, I did want to recognize that we do have Paul Gilbert and Brian Newland with us today from Nova Park. Sorry. We have Evan and his team, Evan Grimm, with Nelsonburg Pulse available on the line as well. And of course, we have Dale, a wonderful consultant on the project, available for any questions. And so with that, I will turn it over to Steve.
Good morning, everyone. As Carla mentioned, we have a couple items to go over today that we'll be needing the board feedback on. For that, had a couple just things we want to go over for that. Schedule overview, just recap some design decisions to date. And then, as we mentioned, the architectural items. The three main ones today are the roof material, the building exterior, and then a wood screening option. So just jump right on into it. Just quickly looking at the schedule, you guys have seen this many times before. The items, nothing's changed since you last saw it, but the items that we're looking for feedback today on will help us, or the design team, move forward to that 50% submission. So that the feedback's really helpful for them. And just recapping some committee decisions to date. This is our third meeting solely just focused on the Reservoir Park project. At the first meeting in mid-October, we went over some of the budget and established the budget management principle and strategies moving forward. The goal is to just continue trying to bring the cost down wherever we can see fit without adjusting scope as best as possible. And one of the strategies was the use of bid alternatives. So as we move forward, we'll make sure with pulling together the bid documents, we'll check in with the board on these bid alternatives, and this will give us some flexibility after opening bids to make some decisions depending on the cost. At the next meeting, late October, we had we mainly reviewed some architectural items and opted to move forward with adding that bridge back in. That's over the the small section of the reservoir, and then also moving forward with the wood cladding and the stone water table. Acknowledging that we'd like to include some bid alternates, just depending if the cost comes in too high on this, we'll have an option to sort of bring it back down to the steel columns without the water table.
Stefan, sorry, Mr. Koblos has his hand up.
All right. Yes.
Good morning, Stefan.
Morning.
Just comment and a question. The comment is we didn't add the 85K to the bridge. The bridge was always in there. We elected not to take it out. So it's not an add. The bridge was always there. Second comment or question is, who is doing the cost estimate on the next phase?
That will be CCI consultants. They're the ones that did the previous cost estimate for us.
Okay. I just want to make sure it was an outside consultant.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
So the people that don't know, CCI is Christopher Consultants?
No, contract. Blanking on the name right now. It's not Christopher Consultants.
But
sorry.
it's not Christopher Consultants. Okay.
Yeah, give me 30 seconds. I'll think of it. I'll tell you later on in the presentation.
Later in the
I got it here. It's Construction Consultant Inc.
Okay.
So with that, the main focus of today's presentation is to make some of these architectural decisions. The first one we're going to talk about is the roof. We have three options we're going to present. Staff and the design team is comfortable with any option selected. It's just more the aesthetics and what the board's feelings towards each option. We also have MBW on the line. I'm going to turn it over and let Evan actually walk through these a little more in depth. But the three options you can see here, are the two with exposed metal roof. It's just the purlins, whether they're contrasting or matching. And then we have one option with a concealed metal roof. It's just the wood decking below. So the next three slides are a little more close-up pictures of each, and we can walk through those. But I'd like to turn it over to Evan now.
Thanks.
Evan, just let me know when you want me to switch slides, and I'll be happy to.
Fantastic. Thanks, Stefan. Hello, everyone. As Stefan mentioned, our previous meeting was really to look at structural systems so that we could start getting coordinated on that. And our kind of topic of focus on this time is really more aesthetics and the cladding, and that's cladding of the roof and of the structure itself. It's worth kind of a reminder that the Welcome Center is the kind of tip of the spear, I guess, in architectural terms. It's the most forefront structure in the design. There are other pavilions, but they don't have enclosed volumes. So some of this cladding for vertical surfaces will apply to the Welcome Center, but won't apply to other structures where there isn't an enclosed volume. Whereas the roof cladding and approach would be the same on all structures across the site. So you'll see these three versions here. Option A is a kind of the most traditional, the most like a kind of standard pole barn, where we have kind of unfinished joists and purlins, and then you see the underside of the corrugated metal roof through those purlins, and we'll have close-ups of each of these in coming slides. Option B is essentially the same, but with purlins painted to match the underside of the roof, so that it emphasizes the joists and takes away a little bit of what could be perceived as busyness. Option C uses either a tongue and groove or some other kind of wood decking to completely conceal the underside of the roofing. That gives us the option to either stay with a metal roof or switch to a lower cost EPDM or a kind of membrane roof that isn't seen from the bottom or above. So with that, we'll go to the next slide. So you see option A again. This is the kind of most typical vernacular roof, where you see joists, purlins, and steel all exposed. And there's a precedent image off to the left. We'll go to the next slide. Very similar to the first one, just with the purlins, which are what connects the steel roof to the joists, painted. We'll go to the next slide. And this is probably the most drastic. It basically eliminates the purlins and replaces them with a wood decking that the roof is then fastened to. Obviously, a different look from underneath, and you can see that in the precedent image to the left. So those are the kind of three slides that focus on the roof. And we can kind of circle back through any of these as necessary, but in a kind of effort to kind of keep things moving along, the next three slides really look at siding for the volumes themselves.
Evan, I see we have a hand up. I'm not sure if Mr. Campbell, if you had a question.
Yes, yeah, I was just gonna say I can't see any of the slides. I don't know if others can, but for some reason they're not on my screen.
Paul, can you see the slides now?
I can see the slides. Plus, I have them up on the on one of my other monitors from the ones from Word Docs.
I cannot see the slides.
I'm able to see the slides.
Paul, are you?
Yeah, I can see the slides.
Paul, are you able to see them now?
I cannot, but
Okay.
maybe something on my end.
We can all see the slides here. Mr. Allen, can you see the slides, or did you have a question?
Yeah, I can see the slides fine, but I have questions about the roof when it's appropriate.
Okay.
What we could do, Stefan, could you email the presentation to Paul and to Mr. Campbell?
Yeah, I'll do that right now.
Thank you. Or anyone else that can't see them. From what I hear, those are the only two.
Yeah, that's all I hear.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So maybe before we get into kind of siding options, we can, if you all want to, we can address any questions about the roof.
Yeah.
I think that would be good. Mr. Allen, do you want
Go
to
ahead,
ask your
Terry.
question?
So when you look at C, which is the wood clad, is there more maintenance involved in having that wood at the underside of the roof than not having it?
Actually, there'd be a little bit less. From a maintenance standpoint, there are more nooks and crannies, and I guess a technical term, in the options A and B, because there are spaces between the purlin and the joists for insects to build nests, birds to build nests, things like that. The option C, where it's more planar, there are less opportunities for that.
Is C more expensive than A and B?
Yes.
Okay.
It is, and it's kind of an interesting wash because while it is more expensive for the decking, there's the option of going with a less expensive roof system. So switching from a metal roof to an EPDM roof, which is essentially a rubber membrane. So you save money on the physical roof, but you spend more on what supports it.
Okay. So is it fair to say when you look at A, B, and C, the real decision is, do you want to see the metal roof from below or not, right?
That's right.
Okay. That's the only question I have. Thanks.
That's a good question. Any other questions?
Great. Well, we can always circle back to this, but if we want to go to the next slide, Stefan, to start our conversation about siding.
I have one quick question,
Sure.
Evan. I know just from different things you can paint the bottom of these light blue, and that will resist people from or birds from making nests and bugs and spiders, etc. Are we able to paint any of this light blue, or do we not want to?
You certainly could. I think we would suggest that. I'm personally a big fan of paint and blue, which is that technique that keeps insects and things like that away. The challenge with paint is once you've painted something, you have to keep repainting it.
Oh yeah, got it. Okay.
And so our suggestion would be to use a finish like heat treated poplar, or even just a kind of a sealant stain, just to minimize the need to repaint at some point.
Okay, thanks.
Now, I guess, do we want to keep going through the presentation and circle back on a decision?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it may be helpful to see, to be able to make the decisions in the context of understanding both sets of decisions.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we need to see what the siding will be.
Yeah. So you'll see here that we've got a kind of similar set or triptych of decisions or options for the siding. Option X is essentially a traditional tongue and groove. We're showing all the material the same, just for simplicity of this decision making, where it's essentially a heat treated poplar or some other low maintenance type of natural wood cladding. The first option again is tongue and groove. The second option, option Y, is what's referred to as a rain screen. So these are planks that are set on furring strips that are held proud of the siding to allow air and moisture to move in front of and behind the siding for improved longevity. And it's an added added aesthetic of depth of siding. And then option Z is a traditional vertical board and batten siding. So if we go to the next slide, you can see, if it's not covered by a little window on the bottom right-hand
Oh, yeah.
side, there's a section there that basically this is traditional framing, batten siding, sheathing, a vapor barrier, and then the the tongue and groove gets fastened directly to that in a very traditional way. We would hold them apart to allow for a little shadow line in between the boards, which you can see in the precedent image there. So that it doesn't look essentially monolithic and has some texture, and you can people are probably fairly familiar with the traditional tongue and groove. If we go to the next slide, this is the rain screen option. So it would use a similar type of wood, just wood without tongue and groove profile. The boards are held away from each other, and then also there's an air gap that's maintained between the exterior of the vapor barrier and the back of the siding. This allows moisture to ventilate, improves the longevity of the siding, but it also gives you a deeper shadow line between the boards because it's not continuous, and it gives it a little bit more texture between the two. So these are pretty traditional and kind of vernacular to the region, especially in smokehouses and corn cribs and things like that. So it's kind of an adaptation of an earlier detail that we bring in back. And then if we go to the next slide, I'm sure you're all pretty familiar with this. Just a traditional board and batten siding. The board and batten could be the heat-treated poplar or more natural finish, but of the three options, we wanted to point out that if you were going to paint this, that painting the board and batten would be the most practical. Painting the rain screen or the tongue and groove will be a challenge. Just practically speaking, there's just more. We get back into more nooks and crannies, as they say. So it's the board and batten, if there is an interest in just a painted facade, lends itself best, but it has, we think, of the three options, the least amount of kind of interest or it stands out less than the other two. So those are our three siding options, and any of them could be combined with any of the roofing options.
And this is Jim. And cost-wise, the tongue and groove is the least expensive.
They're generally about a wash. Tongue and groove is because of its milling, the raw material costs are going to be a little bit more expensive on it, but it goes up in a simpler way versus option X is essentially a 1x4. There's no custom milling on its profile. And it goes up in a simpler fashion, so it's a little bit less. The board and batten, the reason it's a little bit more expensive is that you're just adding more material. You're having to essentially side it twice. You're doing the boards, and then you come back and cover the gaps with the battens.
So option X is the tongue and groove, right?
Option X, yes, is the tongue and groove.
Okay. Yep. And when they go together, there is no air gap between the back of the boards and the vapor seal for
That's
the
correct.
interior of the building.
That's correct.
So then that leads me to the questions about maintenance. Without having that kind of a close tight fit, the others, what are the maintenance issues about mud daubers, insects, other things getting behind that other lumber?
the rain screen. So if we go to the next slide that shows that section, there would be a screen that gets mounted over the battens, over the furring strips and behind the horizontal planks that you wouldn't see from the outside, but it would keep any kind of insects from moving back behind the screen. While we're talking about the screen, it may be helpful to let you all know that there is on the restroom or on the welcome center structure itself, the far right hand end of the restroom is essentially an outdoor mechanical yard. There's a portion of that is not enclosed from the top, but is screened from the sides, and that's where we have an outdoor unit for the air conditioning. There's a expansion tank and a couple other utility pieces that are there. And one of the reasons that we are proposing the kind of rain screen option is that it actually acts as the siding would be the same even over that kind of screened area. So it would be a little bit of a kind of continuous look, but it would also help our outdoor units and the other kind of utility pieces that are in that utility closet get a little bit better air movement. So that's another reason that we're proposing the rain screen.
And so behind the boards on the rain screen, this is Jim again. There's a screen to keep
Correct.
any sort of.
That's correct.
What does everybody else think?
This is Terry. I don't, really have any super strong opinion about the siding. I mean, they all have pluses and minuses. So I guess I would defer to other committee members or to Nelson Birdwells or to staff. I mean, they all have their pluses and minuses, but, and the same goes for the roof. I think, I don't have any strong feeling about whether it's the metal roof or whether it's the wood clad. So I'll just defer at this point.
Mr. Kovler?
Mark, you have your hand up?
Yes. I don't have an opinion and the only thing I wanted to bring up, because I know I'm not on this committee, but is I'm just curious what Evan prefers, and then and subject to maintenance.
Our I think the design team's preference would be for the rain screen, just for longevity and to get the most bang for your buck material wise. It also gives you the biggest perceived depth, so it makes the building look, in fact, deeper. The roof, I think we'd be fine with any of them. It really goes to the point of, I think the biggest difference is when it starts affecting the actual roof type. So painted purlins versus not painted purlins, we're a wash on. The ability to switch from a corrugated metal roof to an EPDM, that's a much bigger decision, because while you will not see the roof here at the Welcome Center from right underneath it, there's potential for seeing roofs on various picnic pavilions as those buildings are scattered throughout the slope and are often down slope as they get closer to the water. So I think from a vernacular standpoint, we would suggest the metal, being able to see the underside of the corrugated metal roof, because it's just a little bit more true to the area. But
So you're saying option A for the roof and Y for the
Side.
for this side. Okay, well, that's
That's right.
good. I think I saw Dale, your hand was up.
Yes. Evan, do these roofs have any penetrations?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Sultan?
I don't have a strong feeling. I do, before you talked about it, I did favor the option Y for the rain screen option. And I don't have a strong opinion. I favored option C for the roof, but again, I don't have a strong opinion.
Option C. Option C is the one with the wood decking underneath. And
Correct.
And that would be, at least it has $3 signs next to it. And checking with restaurants, that usually means it's middle price. But what's the difference in price costing between the two? Do we have a feel for that?
Between the two, you're probably in the $20,000 to $30,000 delta. It's just an added layer, essentially. You've got, you're instead of just the roof being the horizontal piece, or sorry, the metal decking being the horizontal piece, you've now added wood decking plus some other weatherproof piece that clads it.
Well, given that differential, I think maybe option C might not be the best thing, because we're trying to keep this budget down.
Yeah. Brent, do you have any input?
No, no comment from me.
Okay. Well, they're looking for direction from us, so we need to come up with some kind of consensus. I think one way to do it is that it doesn't look like anybody wants to go with Z, the vertical boards for the exterior, and that leaves two then. And then on the roof, we've I think people have said the first option, which is, let me go look at it, that would be A and C. So we've gotten somewhere, right? But we need to give some direction here. Can we get some agreement? Go ahead, Terry.
I'm fine with either of the metal roofs, and I'm fine with the corn cob crib. I forget the name of that.
That's good. I like that.
And I have no problem with deferring to what Nelson Birdwells recommends and what staff recommends as far as these three go. I mean, they're all. I feel like I don't want to take all, control everything. So.
No, that's good. But that's where I am. Is it A and Y?
Yeah, the
That's
range.
what we're talking about.
Yeah,
A,
I'm fine
and
with
then the middle one, which is Y for that. Do we have agreement on that?
Yeah, I would agree. This is Marty. I would agree.
Good.
When you're looking at A and B, is there any difference in expense? Since I guess on one of them you're painting the purlins and the other one they're wood. Maybe Evan could talk about that difference.
No, they would in that case they'd both be the same unpainted heat treated poplar or something similar.
Okay. What about the maintenance issue? Is having poplar as your purlin, contrasting purlin, is that more maintenance expensive because you have to repaint it every year as opposed to just having the metal ones there?
Yeah, no, that's the interest in going with the heat treated wood like that, is that there's no finishing. Okay. It's the heat treating process itself preserves it.
What's your opinion, Evan, on whether you want the wood purlins or the painted metal ones?
We would suggest wood, just given the setting and having a more natural, warm feel of it being in a park.
Okay, so that's A then. So we are talking about A and Y.
It would be A or B would both be unpainted. Only C, the vertical siding, was painted.
Vertical, so I'm confused. A is the wood purlins, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, A is the unfinished, unpainted wood purlins.
And you prefer that over B?
Correct.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like A and green screen, A and Y, right?
A and Y.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. All right.
Do we need to take a vote or what?
I don't think a vote is necessary, Mr. Sultan. I think we will put this in the meeting summary, and Mr. Bonfils can report that out at the board meeting, the next board meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think A and Y is what is the direction that we're talking about going, and I think that's a good selection. We went around a lot of the maintenance issues. I happen to like tongue and groove, but that's just me. But A and Y are seem to be when you go with the pluses and minuses, a really good selection. So, is that the direction you're looking for?
That's very helpful.
Okay.
Very helpful. And we have one more slide that is at the very end. This was something that was discussed earlier in the process about, and we wanted to acknowledge that it hadn't fallen off the radar, but we do want, the design team does want to note that while it is an option to include the enclosed volumes and the underside of the roof, we do not recommend it. It will be it's a kind of antithesis to trying to keep the roof lighter and visually permeable, as well as being a kind of great nesting spot for anything you don't want to have nesting there. So we did want to include it because it had been something that had been seen before, but we wanted to kind of hopefully close this out by taking it off the table with your agreement.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Yeah, I don't either. It's visually closing when you put it, at least in the picture we have. Are there any security issues going on that roof? Of course, over the visitor centers and the restroom, that'll be closed. But the area with the maintenance and the would there be any issues of people getting in there, potential theft, vandalism?
No.
Okay. And I think we're good.
Great. Well, that concludes what we have.
Excellent. So yeah, that was the bulk of today's focus for the presentation. All we really had left was just a quick look ahead about the next meeting. This is the last meeting for the year, at least for the Reservoir Park issues. We're looking right now for our next meeting to be sometime January, February. Still trying to figure out exactly when that will take place, but the focus of that meeting will be education overview, and then we'll also look to bring you the cost estimate from the 50% construction documentation set, and we can go over that and look at where we stand with the budget. Other than that, I think Sue wants to mention about the meetings moving forward. But
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, Stefan, you pretty much covered it, but now that we've made significant progress on these decisions that keep us on the critical path, this committee can resume its more normal, regular quarterly meeting. And that's what we intend to do starting in January or February, depending on when we schedule the meeting. As far as the Reservoir Park special project is concerned, as Stefan mentioned, the next meeting will cover the educational initiative. We'll have an update for you about that, and then also the cost estimate update. And then Pam will do a presentation on water quality or a supply topic to be determined. So I just wanted to mention that kind of moving forward with the committee business.
Okay, so the educational initiative, very, very important. And of course, water quality. I'd like to add one to that. And it could either be you, Sue, or Mark Peterson providing a report, but there's a lot going on about trails in the county that affect not just Reservoir Park, but many of our properties and right-of-ways. And I would encourage our board members to be involved with those. I certainly am. And so I think we should add as a regular report talking about trails and what's going on with the different interested groups to our regular rotation for our agenda.
Mr. Bonfils, I would just offer one recommendation on that, since the new business item was focused specifically on the perimeter trail around Reservoir Park or Beaver Dam Reservoir. So of course we're going to be doing a lot of work on that to prepare it for the board for March. Right. I'm not sure. I'm not sure at the next meeting we would have something again on trails, but let us work through that. I know what you're saying. It's a much broader topic in our participation in that, and we do participate throughout the county project. So maybe an overview of how we're participating would actually be a good lead into that work that we're going to do for the March meeting. But let us think that through and then work that through with you. Make sure that we're going to satisfy your request.
All right.
Mr. Cobles and Mr. Campbell have their hands up.
Yeah, so Jim, I'll go first. First, I have a comment that Jim always sees the mustachio and no eyes, so you may want to move your camera a little bit. There you go. But my question really is for Sue. Shouldn't we have weren't we going to do some upgrades to the existing educational piece in our administration building? And shouldn't that be coming up sometime as an upcoming topic for this group?
We've done some smaller upgrades this past year. We've done some technology upgrades to the screens and to some of the computer systems, and added some computer games for the kids that visit us. They've been smaller. I think with Reservoir Park, we felt that we had kind of a larger opportunity to invest some of our educational funds into this project. But we do continue to update the apiary at our headquarters. Hopefully we'll have visitors back there soon. But we've done a little bit this year. We'll continue to improve it. But right now the focus is really on Reservoir Park. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, thanks. I think that at one time we were going to do a really big redo out there, and if I remember correctly, did that get shelved?
It didn't really get shelved. It's just kind of on the back burner. In fact, the vendor that we were working with on the educational program here at Reservoir Park, Riggs Ward, is also the vendor that we had working on the apiary at the headquarters. So it's kind of a parallel process. The goal is for the two exhibits to really complement each other. And then, as you may know, the Children's Science Center is also getting built kind of in our general area there.
Yeah.
So we're doing a lot of work in partnership with them to make sure that our exhibits, again, complement each other and don't compete, because they will have a water exhibit as well, I believe, in their center. So we've been working with them too.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just going to echo Jim's comments, and I don't know why my video is not working, but press the button. But I was just going to echo his comments. It'd be nice to get regular updates from that, and I don't know if we can get updates between now and March when you all come back with us with some suggestions for a trail around the perimeter of the the lake. But if you all are able to provide some updates in between now and then, March is some months away. So anyhow, that's my comments. Thanks.
Anyone else? All right. So we'll have to determine when our next meeting is. We're looking at either January or February, and some of that's based on the when the information comes back for the cost estimate update. So let's not nail that date down just yet. Let's take a look and see what how that work is going, and then we'll schedule it. Is that okay with everyone?
Okay with me.
Great.
Okay with me?
Right. Not seeing any other business before our committee. What's left to do?
Adjourn. So moved.
We have a move to adjourn. Do we have a second?
Second for Marty.
All right, I guess we need to do a roll call vote.
Yep. Mr. Bonfils,
Yes.
Mr. Allen,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. Singleton.
Yes.
Thank you. Adjourn at 8:46 a.m.
Great. Kept it
Thank you,
under
everybody.
an hour. Thanks everyone for all their input and their time and paying attention to all the details here. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.